Welcome to GoSimcha, the podcast that takes you on an in-depth approach to the Jewish music, entertainment, and simcha world. Now, here's your host, Zisha Littman. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Season 3 of GoSimcha, the podcast. We're kicking off Episode 2 with another super cool dude. I know you're all locked down in your houses, so why not listen to a fun podcast talking about Jewish music and kicking it old school? I'm Zisha Littman. I'm the host of this wonderful show. We've been doing this now for 3 seasons. We're up to Episode 2, and we have Kanai Nahara, well over 60,000 listeners on a regular basis. And it's really awesome. I'm happy that we finally decided to get this thing going up again. We did take a little bit of a hiatus, and now it's perfect that we're doing this again, especially when people are sitting around with not much to do, so you might as well listen to a podcast and watch a cool video. So I'd love to welcome to my show this week for Episode 2, a guy who I used to listen to his music back in the day, and it turns out one of my closest friends is a very close friend of his. So I'd love to welcome Yitz Jordan to the show, also known as Ylove, for those who remember.
What's going on? Ylove in the building.
What's up, dude? Baruch Hashem, welcome to the show, bro. How are you?
Hashem, can't complain. Keeping it real over here in Brooklyn. You know, just staying locked down in quarantine.
That's what's up. That's what's up. Brooklyn's crazy, though, man. Brooklyn's, like, absolutely nuts. People are, like, just all out, don't seem to care what's going on, and in some regards, and it's just, like, business as usual, no?
It's too many people not caring. I actually just did a Facebook story about it today. The mayor just called out the whole Jewish community, basically, on Twitter, saying that the time for warnings is over, and talking about all the gatherings that, you know, that the weddings and funerals and stuff like that have been going on in the Orthodox community. But they just had to break up a barbershop party in Canarsie, like, and of course this was people of color, so they don't get the same treatment as Hasidic people do all the time. So everybody's dragged out onto the sidewalk in zip ties and all of that. But you see hipsters, bougie hipsters, all through Williamsburg, walking up and down the water like it's nothing. You see bougie people walking through Greenpoint, McCarran Park, like it's a non-issue. And that's what drives me crazy. It's like, what? Just because you spent $250 on your beard, that means that you don't have to socially distance? Come on.
That's crazy. That is absolutely crazy. It's funny the way you the way you just brought that out. You know, when I used to listen to your music, your lyrics were also very passionate, very deep like that. So my question is, we're talking about music, we're talking about your life. What's your story? What's your deal, dude? Like, what's your deal?
I converted in 2000. I started rhyming in yeshiva in Orsameach in 2000, and started performing professionally in 2001 at this club called the Orange Bear. This was the most trashy, preachers type of club in the world. I can't even name their house drinks for your listeners.
Wow.
Like, to give you an idea. They had like adult cartoons on the walls, let's put it that way. And here we are, a group of guys from yeshiva who are rhyming what they just learned in Gemara shir. And we turned the place out. They gave us, it was an open mic. We had 15 minutes. We turned the place out for 2 hours. Ended up being resident at that club, and that was in 2001, and then got signed to Shem Speed Records with Erez D1 in 2005.
Oh, wow.
And, you know, the rest is kind of history after that. Was making albums up until, 2013? Around 2013.
That's pretty dope. It's funny because, like, people associate Jewish rap, people associate Jews and rap with Neeson, but it seems like you've been doing the rap game longer before he came on the scene, like, at least in the Jewish world.
Yeah, way before. But you know what? If there wouldn't have been people like me, Kosher Dills, Nelson Zand, other people like that doing it way back in the day, there wouldn't be the Jewish hip-hop market that there is today. When I started rhyming in yeshiva, you would have thought that I was trying to serve bacon cheeseburgers in the base medrash. Like, people were flipping out. Like, this is a treif music. How could you bring this into a holy place? It's like shatnez that you're using Torah and hip hop at the same time. Now, like you go back to Osameach now, it's like there's MCs, there's DJs, there's breakdancers, hip hop has made inroads into the Haredi world, into the Orthodox world in a big way. And and I'm happy for that. It gives more people more ways to express.
But it's funny though, because like, in every music scene, there's always that underground scene. And it seems like you and Kosha and Diwan and Zayn and all those guys were like the underground of the Jewish music scene, Geilu, And that's pretty funny. But like, what was that like? What was that like repping the underground scene, basically?
So that was kind of on purpose at the time, because back in them days, Matisyahu was the hot new thing on the charts.
Right.
And so you kind of had one of two options. You could either go commercial or go underground.
Right.
And for me, that was a real tangible decision. J-Dub Records, who signed Matisyahu, offered to sign me back in the day. And I was like, no, I'm going to stay with, and I turned them down, and I was like, no, I'm going to stay with Shemspeed. And so I decided to stay with the underground. Just because looking back on it, I don't know if I would have wanted celebrity reporters following me around during that time of my life. I was going through a lot of stuff back then with the Velt and all of that, and I don't know if Entertainment Tonight needed to hear all the stuff that I had to say about my Rebbe that day. So it's kind of a good thing that I didn't get the platform that Matis did. But as far as the underground was concerned, it's not like we weren't packing bars and packing clubs and stuff like that. We were, used just like, BB King, Webster Hall, stuff like that. Big venues, just we weren't dealing with labels.
That's pretty cool. That's really cool. And it's funny though how you said like people back in the day were like hip hop and Jewish doesn't seem to stem, it doesn't seem to kind of go together. But it's like it's the opposite. Like there's everything in this world you can find kedusha within it. Everything that's brought in this world has a purpose to it, and you can find this. You can reach out and pull out the kedusha within it. So it's funny that and now all of a sudden you took your music, you took that platform, and you made it kosher. Like the stuff you were rapping about, I used to listen to your music like legit. The stuff you were rapping about was all Torah inyanim, all things from within Chassidus, from within different parts of Torah. It was kind of like what Matisyahu was doing, except I think your stuff, your stuff was a bit more real. You could feel it. I've been.
Also, I went to yeshiva for longer than Matis, so I'm rhyming stuff that I learned in Rashi and Tosfos that day. You know what I mean? I was more yeshivish than he was.
Right, but it's funny that did you guys ever perform together?
Yeah, a few times. There's a video of me, him, and Idan Reichel on the stage together. There's free of where Matis is providing the freestyle, is providing the beat, and it's me, Nasin Zand, I think even D-Scribe was there. Kosha was there, just doing a freestyle cipher. Yeah.
That's
back in those days, I look at it like this, music goes with Yiddishkeit. Hip hop, jazz, rock, blues, whatever. The Tehillim were written to music. Lam Natseach is for a conductor. Al Hashmina is on for musical instruments. Al Ayel Shachar. These are written. These are songs. These were compositions. So, and you see Temani people still using music and learning. So, there's nothing treif about a style of music that would make it impossible to be used for kedusha.
Right.
It's all about what you put into it. I tell people there's nothing intrinsically kadosh about when you're listening to quote unquote Hamish Nagunim, what you're listening to is the top 10 pop hits of 1804.
Yep. 100%.
That's all that was. But why do we consider them so kadosh, and the Rebbe is nigun and this and that? Because they put the kedusha in it. So too,
Right.
that's what I'm trying to do with my lyrics, is put the
Right.
kedusha into it.
Right. It's funny because like you listen to these Chassidish nigunim, and most of them are just your standard marches, their standard waltzes, your standard classical music, and they were composed probably by people by secular composers, who knows. And it's exactly the Rebbe puts the kedusha into the nigun. The person who's singing that song puts that kedusha into the song, and
Right.
it brings out that level of kadosh. And yeah, totally. Like that's why it's funny. Like people nowadays, like I said, people nowadays associate rap and hip hop with Neeson, and they don't realize that and some people say like, oh, it's not real Jewish music. It's this. Like the question I always ask people on my show, and I've been doing this for a long time. I say, what is Jewish music? Like for real, like what is Jewish music? And it's, you know what I mean?
So who is it? The person who runs the American Jewish Music Archives famously said in the 2000s that there's no such thing as Jewish music, that there's only music. There's A, B, C, D, E, F, G, sharps and flats, and there's nothing that's intrinsically Jewish about it.
Makes sense.
I kind of tend to agree with that when it comes to music. Music is a blank canvas. You can put anything into music that you want to. Hip hop started in the late 70s at a back to school party in the Bronx. Hip hop was basically the voice of positivity for the hood for years, until, of course, an aspiring DJ named Dr. Dre would come up, and now we would have gangster rap. But before then, and on the East, didn't have such negative messages in hip hop. So if somebody can make hip hop trafe, then somebody can make it kosher.
Yeah.
Like if somebody took it down to the level that like Akon is singing, then somebody can bring it all the way back up.
Nice.
If you believe you can break, believe you can fix.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. That makes a lot of sense. And that's what I find very interesting about Jewish music, because you see nowadays, like within the Jewish music world, people are copying a lot from the secular side of things, and a lot of people get upset about it and things, and but if you look at it from the other perspective of there's no such thing as Jewish music, it's what you put into it. You add the kedusha to it. So you may be ripping off of someone else's beat, but they had their kavanas when they were making that song, and you have your kavanas when you're making that song.
Exactly. And there's nothing intrinsically kadosh about violins or about trumpets or about little boys singing, like the things that we associate with Jewish music. Like there's nothing intrinsically kadosh about.
Right.
Like why is it Jewish? Because of the lyrics, because of the intents, the content, the things that went into it.
Right. And it's funny because a lot of Jewish music is that big band style, horns, saxophones, drums, guitar. It's that big band style that was popular back in the 40s and 50s, and it's kind of moved over and moved out, and now we see a lot. Now it's funny, the trend that I'm seeing a lot in Jewish music is a lot of people are into like this indie rock, like all these like indie bands, like the Zushas and the Pumpadisas and like all this like indie stuff. I mean, like I used to listen to this kind of stuff back in the day on the non-kosher side of things, and it's just very funny. And then like DJs and this, it's funny what the trends are in music. And the fact that
I do hear a lot of EDM.
Yes,
I hear a lot of EDM influence today. And you talk about the indie rock basis, Ein Chadash Tachas Hashemesh, like people was doing that indie rock thing 15 years ago. People was doing that indie rock thing 20 years ago. Jam bands are also like, it's been around forever.
Right.
People been doing that acoustic folk singer thing forever.
Right.
Ein Chadash Tachas Hashemesh.
Exactly. Mehuz, man. That's really funny. And but I find still very funny is that like you were kind of like, you and your crew were like really the pioneers of this whole kind of situation. Like if as you like, and people don't realize it. People probably don't realize it because people are probably like, people here have described, people know about Schneider, but people don't really, people kind of, I don't know how many people still know about you, and your music, and like, and all these other guys, but it's funny because you were really like one of the pioneers.
Yeah, I mean, now I'm really, really showing my age. I'm like, yeah, when I started doing this 20 years ago, um, yeah, but yeah, 20 years ago, as far as Jewish music to draw on, I think the only thing from the 90s was like Black Attitude.
Yes.
There wasn't anybody who was like serious Jewish hip hop out there.
Black Attitude. It's funny
And that because
because
that was more of a parody
yeah,
than anything.
it's funny with Black Attitude. One of the guys was my mashgiach in yeshiva, and when he told me that, I was like, "Nah, bro, you're Black Hat." He's like, "Yeah, it was one of those guys." I was like, "What?" And it was fun. It was hilarious because they were funny. They were like absolutely hilarious.
And when I started coming out, I was like, why didn't they? When we started rhyming, I was like, why didn't they stick around? They could have done so much more. Like they could have blew up.
Right.
Uh,
Well, it is what it is, but it's funny. And so, what are you up to now? Like, what are you still making music? You still making beats?
So now, last year with the when all the anti-Semitic attacks started happening in New York, we started collecting for the first Jewish community center targeted towards Jews of color, because when all those anti-Semitic attacks started happening, there were too many perpetrators who were people of color, and who gets caught in the middle when there's issues between Jewish communities and communities of color is Jews of color. And people started asking, Black Jews, which side are you on? Where's your loyalty at? And when somebody's biracial, this fight can be happening at the dinner table. This fight could be happening in their own family. So you had a lot of people feeling alienated and things like that. So we decided to start collecting for that Jewish Community Center, which has now turned into tribeherald.com, which is now the first site around Jews.
Wow.
And all of our friends, allies, loved ones, and supporters. And if you don't fit into one of those four categories, then you're part of the problem. We're the first site that's going to be focused Jewish news and views and everything like that, but focusing on diversity. Jews of color are 1 out of every 5 Jews in America. And that's 1 out of every 5 Jews who don't see themselves in media and who are only part of Jewish media as part of some human interest story, or let's hear the story about how you converted and put it in Mishpacha magazine.
That's actually funny you said that, because there was an article in Mishpacha magazine this week written by my friend's wife, and I actually went to high school with her before she was Jewish, and it's really funny.
Not that article, loved it and put it on Facebook, but right. That's where you hear about Jews of color, is in context like that. Nobody
for sure.
talks about that there was an astronaut who was a Native American Jew, or nobody talks about like this woman on the Food Network who's an Asian Jew. People don't talk about that. People just want to hear about conversion stories and stuff like that. So we want to be the site for representing all the diversity of the Jewish community.
That's pretty dope, man. That's really awesome. That's really awesome. That's absolutely super cool. You're not really doing any music now, so to speak. You're just kind of focused on this project.
So much. It's focused on this project, and this isn't just the site. We putting out videos, putting out all types of things, but not so much music right now. I'll still perform at the occasional show. Like I just did a show at this bar, Club Niagara, in the East Village a couple months ago. So I'm still on stage every once in a while, but that's about it.
Nice. So when you were
can't keep a microphone out my hand for so long.
That's what's up. No, so when you were writing your music, how did you come up with them? Because like your beats were also really good. Your lyrics were good because you're pulling it from your learning, but your beats were also good. So how did how did you come up with these beats? Like what's your inspiration for all that stuff?
So I wasn't producing them, and for some of my bigger tracks, shout out to Prod Ezra. for some of his talents making beats. D1, shout out to him for making beats. And the studio that we recorded at, Brewery Recording Studio, they also made beats. So between D1 getting me producers and Prod Ezra and getting beats from the studio, that's where it came from. And we worked with producers, you know, as the years went on. It's not like these were, other than Prod Ezra, it's not like we were working with from producers. These were just beats that, you know, anybody would rap to. But you know, it would be me sitting in D1's apartment with like a sitter or a Gemara or something like that. My Sphera album, my acapella album, that came because literally we had a whole bunch of beatboxes ready to go from Uri Lane, and D1 basically locked me in a studio and was like, "Here, you're not leaving until all 10 of these tracks are written."
That's great.
Yeah, you know, the beats came from everywhere.
That's great. So I remember, it's funny because Binyamin once pulled up a music video, an old music video, to prove to me that that he was in a music video one time, and it was you and a bunch of other people. What was the story behind that video? Because it looked pretty fun. It looked like it was pretty dope.
It was a really fun music video. The video for Make It, that was with me and D-Scribe, and that video was filmed on a roof in Crown Heights. What we tried to do was, because we were in Crown Heights and D-Scribe was so Chabad, we didn't want it to be a Chabad music video. So we got the whole Breslov crew in. And then we decided to have the whole Nanach crew. And I was down with Breslov at the time. So it was like, oh yeah, this is totally working. And so it was a little bit like an intra-Hasidus battle video a little bit.
It's funny
because you had Nanach dances and you had Chabad dances, but you know it was supposed to be just to showcase all the different types of talent that people had. We had, you know, graffiti in the video, we had dances in the video and things like that, to show that it wasn't just all about MCs.
That's pretty cool.
You know, there's what's called the 4 elements of hip hop: DJing, MCing, dancing, and graffiti. B-boying and graffiti, and so like we wanted to show all 4 of those elements in a video done by From people.
Nice. And I don't think anybody's really done that kind of stuff ever since. Like, I don't think anybody's really in the Jewish music world. I don't think anybody's really touched on that kind of sound ever since y'all did it, you know? Not that I can think of.
Really. I mean, Neeson definitely could. He's got the skills for it. But yeah.
So have you ever met Neeson? Like you said that he has the skills to do that kind of stuff. Have you ever met him?
So he and I, we've met like before, but just, you know, hi, how are you doing type of meeting, shalom aleichem. Last time I was in Israel, and that was, I guess 2013 or so. We were supposed to meet up then, I think it was. But yeah, we've never really sat down and had a conversation.
Interesting. He'd probably be interested in your paper, your project. It's funny.
That was one of our first interviews we ran, was an interview with Neeson.
Nice. Did you guys ever reach out to Amare Stoudemire? I mean, he's also another famous Jew of color, Kilu.
So Neeson, this guy, Mordechai Ben Avram, Amare Stoudemire, and a few other people, they all hang out.
Right.
And they're all this crew in Jerusalem. And I'm like, all right, I can see I need to get over to Jerusalem sometime soon because y'all are all hanging out. Y'all must have something going on. No, I haven't met him yet. I've seen the pictures of him with Mordechai Ben Avram, but nope, I haven't met him yet.
That's funny. Yeah, so it seems like there's a large amount of Jews of color. And I think that's really cool. I think that's like really, really cool.
In 1990, the statistic was that 2.2% of Jews were black. And now it's 1 in 5 being ethnically diverse. What probably happened? That 2.2% had a lot of kids over the years. And now it's 1 in 5. So the Jewish community is just going to keep looking more and more and more like the world as time goes on.
Well, that's what I like. That's what like I love about living in Israel is that like you see like there's people there's Jews who of all different shapes, sizes, and colors, and they all no one looks like Jew. You know what I mean? Like you know what I mean? Like Jewish. Like
Right.
like
That's one of the goals I have with Tribe Herald. I want that Generation Z, the last generation, to think that there's such a thing as looking. That Generation Alpha should be done with all of that. That it's like, oh, the guy with the dreadlocks down to his waist and the yarmulke on is Jewish because he's wearing a yarmulke. Obviously Jewish. Like there being a Jewish look. I want to see that go away with history.
Yeah, that's pretty dope, man. I think this is a cool project, and I'm sure that if you ever get back into music, you could probably even put something together, based upon this concept and this project that you're working on, because I think that would also be pretty cool to create some sort
Oh
of
yeah.
musical accompaniment to this project. I'm sure you could pull some lyrics out somewhere.
And I'm sure it's going to end up happening. I'm sure it will as time goes on. We have a lot that we're putting together for women. We're putting together games. We got apps coming out. We've got a line of clothes coming out in the fall. We're
Nice.
just really trying to put as much out there to get, to amplify as much the voices of diversity in the Jewish community.
That's really awesome. Where's this community center located? Where's this JCC located?
So all right, so here's a story. Before the times of Corona, in the days pre-COVID, we were going to open up a space in Bushwick, here in Brooklyn, and we were in negotiations with the landlord. It was a Hasidic landlord, and when he found out about Tribe Herald and all the stuff that we wanted to do, he goes, "Why do you want a place in Bushwick? My kind of Jewish doesn't live in Bushwick." And I was like, just for saying that, you just perfectly illustrated the reason we got to have Tribe Herald. Like, my kind of Jewish doesn't live in Bushwick. It's like, oh, really? Okay. So there's a your kind of Jewish and a my kind of Jewish. And he's saying this into a table full of Jews of color. So I'm like, we're all looking at each other like, did that just happen?
Yep.
So, but we're looking to open places like in Bushwick, Bed-Stuy, places which are shtetl adjacent, not in the Veld, but next to the Veld.
Mm.
So not in Crown Heights, but in Bed-Stuy, not in Williamsburg, but in Bushwick.
Interesting. That's really cool. So you're trying to kind of like keep it close, but like not so. You know what I mean? I get what you're doing. That's pretty cool.
Well, also because not everybody who we're dealing with is from, and a lot of people are off the derech and stuff like that. I wouldn't expect that a lot of people would just come to an event in Borough Park sight unseen. But if we're in Bed-Stuy and it's a 20-minute walk from 770, it's not in Crown Heights, so it's not in the shtetl, but okay. It's convenient for both from and non-from people, so everybody can come together.
Right. No, that's pretty cool. That's really, really cool. Well, this was fun. I'm really happy you came on my show. I got to learn a lot about you.
Thank you for having me.
For sure. And I think it's really awesome. Like I said, like you were like a pioneer in the underground Jewish music scene, which I don't know if it still if it still exists, but if it did, I'm sure it's probably cool. Does it still exist?
Yeah, it does. It does. I just shared a video that came my way on my Ylove page on Facebook. Yeah, it totally still exists. Back in the day, there used to be a crew, Corner Prophets, Nevi'im Bapina, in Yerushalayim. That was the Yerushalayim underground hip hop scene. I don't know if they're still around, but I'm sure that there's still a Yerushalayim hip hop crew, and there's still people out there doing it.
That's awesome. That's
Which
really
yeshiva
awesome.
they're at, I'm not quite sure about that these days, but I know that there's somebody in a base medrash somewhere freestyling right now.
That's awesome. That's really awesome. Ah, man. Well, cool. Thank you so much for coming on, like I said, and sharing your story with us, sharing about your music, and also everything in between. And I really like this new project. I think it's really cool. For anybody who's interested, I'm sure you can to take a look at it. You can visit. What's the website? Tribe Herald.
TribeHerald.com.
TribeHerald.com. All right. Cool. Cool.
All right.
I think that's really awesome. So, like I said, thanks so much, Yitz, for joining us, and I look forward to hearing more cool things about Tribe Herald. And please, God, more of your music.
And God, from your mouth to God's ears. That's what's up. Peace.
Peace and love, buddy.
You just listened to another wonderful episode of GoSimcha the podcast. For more news, updates, and information on our next episode, like us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram at GoSimcha Live, and don't forget to check out the show notes and videos on www.gosimcha.com along with zeradio.com. Thanks for listening, and remember, Go Simcha!